Are you tired of getting parried?
Yeah, yeah,
Want to make your enemies flinch so you can punch them more?
yeah, me hit.
Then this is the video for you. What is up, YouTube? My name is Bishop, I am an Ascendant 4 player in Deadlock, and I'm going to be breaking down how to avoid getting parried and explaining some of the deeper mechanics and situations behind the melee and parry mechanic. Let me explain how parries function. Parry is a mechanic that will block all incoming sources of melee damage and stun the enemy who hits your parry for 3 seconds. As of the October 24th patch, Parry's active window is 0.75 seconds, and the cooldown of Parry is 4.5 seconds. Parry's cooldown is refreshed upon successfully parrying an enemy melee, allowing you to immediately parry again. Basically a very effective block that can turn the tides of a fight, especially in early laning when gun damage is low and people are swinging often. The parry mechanic has been around in other video games, mostly fighting games, which I have a lot of experience in. January alone, I played 1,000 games of Smash Bros. Melee online. The core concept that these games share with Deadlock is called an RPS interaction, or a rock, paper, scissors interaction. And everyone has played rock, paper, scissors before, but how does it fit into Deadlock? Let's break this down by first assigning actions to the label of rock, paper, or scissors. Melee is our rock in Deadlock, which loses to paper. Paper is going to be our parry in this game, and I'm sure you can start to see where I'm going with this. Just like in a game of rock, paper, scissors, there is a sort of consistent outcome you can expect by throwing paper. It will beat rock, tie with itself, and lose to scissors. But it's obvious melee loses to parry, and what even is scissors? Well, we will call scissors our gun damage or abilities, which lose to rock but beat paper. Now that we have gone over what each element of rock, paper, scissors are tied to in terms of in-game actions, let's go a little more in-depth with how this analogy fits into the game of Deadlock, how it's not quite as straightforward as rock, paper, scissors. Let's talk about rock, or melee, and how it interacts with the other two options present in RPS. Melee beats shooting or abilities very strongly early game, and even in the endgame if you are building/playing for melee damage. This is rock beating scissors. Paper beats rock, parry beats melee. I don't need to explain much more. Scissors beats paper, because when you parry, you have to stand still. You give the opponent a sizable window to freely shoot you and use whatever abilities they like if you parry and they don't punch. If you are Abrams and you bait a parry, you can pin them and let them have it. Now that we've established the parallel to RPS, I want to talk about conditioning your opponents and how to get them to flinch or parry without punching them. If you are playing against more average players, just try punching to see their reaction. If they parry your second or third heavy melee, you know it's time to start baiting them. You can bait out paper or parry by throwing out a variant of rock. By moving to the left or right of the target intentionally missing, you can bait them into using parry. This gives you about 3.5 seconds to freely melee them until it's back off cooldown. This is even stronger in duel lanes, or in teamfights where your teammate can shoot them as they stand still when they're trying to parry your first punch. Let's break down some interactions that play around with this RPS concept a bit further. In this clip, a Bebop gets a little too close, so I go for a pin on him. I do not have my charge level 2, so a heavy melee is not guaranteed off this pin. I go for a quick light melee which is guaranteed, and this causes him to panic and burn parry. I'm able to chase with heavy melees now, but I get tornadoed by Mirage. This ability is only a snare, not a hard CC, so I'm able to parry him as he tries to punch me, the stationary target. I go for a classic parry punish, which is 2 heavy melees. However, this replay is taken from a patch that nerfed the pace at which Abrams can heavy melee, so I get parried. This change has been reverted, so you can now still punish a successful parry with 2 heavy melees. Note that the stun effect is still present even after I've connected with the second heavy melee. I'm now going to break down a full engagement under the lens of the RPS concept I've introduced to you. Infernus dives out from under tower to pressure my lane partner. Bobby Banana 55 here sees the Infernus look at me and tries to get a heavy melee in while his attention is on me. Infernus turns and parries Mr. Banana, leaving him vulnerable. I am not in a position to protect him with a parry fast enough, so I know that trading damage is the best outcome. This is a rock versus rock situation. Infernus goes for the full parry punish, and this time, on the second punch, I am able to parry to protect my duo. Get papered, buddy. We full punish Infernus for the kill, and the Wraith chases to trade 1 for 1. Knowing I am low on ammo and trying to kill her before she teleports, I dash into melee range hoping to bait a parry. I wait knowing she will likely panic, and finish her off with a quick melee once she has burned her parry. Low health parries, like the one that Wraith on the bench did, are very common at higher level. Be on the lookout for people who are hoping to get quick meleeed at low health. A successful parry is their only way to turn the tide of the fight once you have such a clear advantage, so be patient and be comfortable reloading as long as you have a high enough health advantage. Once you have conditioned them out of purely reacting to your heavy melee, which in this game where the clip is from, I've baited 7's parry multiple times this game. Now immediately meleeing them comes back to the table, because every time they see a heavy melee, they now have to make a guess on whether or not you are baiting with melee or you are actually trying to connect the punch. This overloads their mental stack, which will cause slower reactions and a little bit of hesitation, which is oftentimes exactly what you need to get the surprise with the first punch. What is the mental stack? Well, in fighting games, each situation has a number of branching outcomes depending on what your opponent does. In fighting games, where there is so many different choices, the more you represent a different option in a set situation, the more things and options the opponent has to consider and track when they get put in that situation. Essentially, there is simply too much to track, especially in a game like Deadlock, and you get to choose how to mix up your approach in the situation. Let's use Abrams' pin as an example here. Before you have leveled up your pin twice on Abrams, there's always a window to parry a heavy melee after the charge. This is where you can play around with your mix-ups. You can light melee, which beats them trying to parry a heavy melee out of the level 1 pin. Once they start realizing you aren't going for the heavy melee, they will want to save their parry. This is when you can start waiting a small amount after the pin, and then hitting them with a heavy melee. Now good opponents will be doing their best to wait and react to the sound and visual of heavy melee, but you can now take this mix-up even further by baiting out their parry by whiffing the melee after the pin. There's now 3 different outcomes they have to consider after being pinned early game, and during all of them, they're going to be looking for and trying to react to heavy melee. This isn't including all the other things you have to track in Deadlock, like minion position, your health, ammo, your lane partner's health, the map, and position of the enemy team. Having to track all of this while being forced to react to the situation in front of them, which is getting pinned, is going to overwhelm their thinking most of the time, giving you a leg up on reacting and deciding which option to use. That's it for this video. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel right now. Just click on the subscribe button below this video. I'll be posting more Deadlock content in the future, so comment what else you guys want to see from me. Thanks again, have a good one.